tell us, first of all, Song, tell us your full name, your correct name.
Well, it'd be Song Wong
And Bourbeau.
Bourbeau.
And talk to me about where you were born and who your parents were. Tell me the story of your life.
Well, I was born here in Santa Rosa. Let's see. October 7, 1909. Dr. Lane was a doctor and brought me into this world. I was born on 2nd Street.
Your mother, your father?
Let's see. What else do you want?
Your mother? Tell me about your mother.
Mother was born in San Francisco.
And
Her name was Lun Wing, and was my dad's 4th wife.
And your dad was?
I have a little brother, Harry Wong.
And your dad, your father's name?
My dad is from Canton.
His name?
Tom Wing Wong.
When did your dad come to Santa Rosa?
He came to when he was a teenager. They brought him. They sent him here from Canton, China, and worked in a shoe factory.
In San Francisco?
And then he came up here to Santa Rosa, and then he worked in the different hop fields and all the ranches and everything. And then he became kind of a boss, and he had all these Chinese come from China. And then we lived next door to where there was a Chinese temple, and he had in charge of that. And then they had roomers and boarders, and he got Chinese to come from China to do all the different kind of work.
What kind of work did they do, Song? What kind of work did they do?
Well, farm work, any work that was available, cooking. And in fact, 2 of my brothers, one of them worked in, Mary Jessie Hospital. He cooked there at Mary Jessie Hospital. And then another brother worked at Sober Vista Sperry Flour, and isn't Sober Vista down there in
Sonoma Valley?
Glen Ellen or someplace down there?
The Spreckles.
And and then another brother had, these are all half brothers, except Harry. Harry's my full brother. He's my baby brother. I had one brother had a laundry on 2nd and D Street. In fact, Chinatown was D to Main Street.
Along
2nd Street.
And 1st Street too, or just
1st Street was mostly Japanese. There was a color man named Joe. He made, in fact, he was the only color man, and he sold tamales. He had a little cart, and he took tamales all over, and he had a regular route.
And he lived on 1st Street too?
He lived on 1st Street where the Japanese people were. And then there were mostly Japanese on 1st Street. But we live in a house that we raised all our own food. And we had chickens and rabbits and pigeons. And when we wanted something, well, we just go out in the backyard and get it. We had our own garden. And then we had a apple dryer, and we used to dry apples and sulfur them and send them to market.
Did you have more men living in Chinatown?
In fact, they were all men.
You told
See,
me that.
my dad brought all these men over. There was no women. My mother was the only woman. She did all the cooking and
Did too.
for the roomers and the boarders. And then like in the wintertime when there's no work, well, they start to have Fantan and all the lotteries and everything going, all the little shacks. Each little, there was Kwong Sing, that's Uncle Charlie's store. And then my dad had a store, had groceries, Chinese groceries and American groceries. And then, in fact, they raised tobacco in the backyard too. And my mother and I sit for hours and roll these cigarettes with rice paper, cut rice paper. And
How many people do you think lived in Chinatown in the early part of the century?
oh, maybe less than 100. And then each little place they had, had little dominoes, or they all took turns and to have their little dominoes and mahjong games, and they had regular Chinese lottery, and the lottery isn't. It's like I guess you call it the beginner Chinese. It's all words. They're not numbers.
Really?
Uh-huh. In fact, the first word is God. The first word in the lottery ticket, and you go up and down. You read it up and down. You don't go. And
how did they pick the numbers?
With 4 bowls. They put there's 80 words. Each word means something. In fact, they play the lottery like superstition. They said somebody's birthday. Well, they go and play birthday, or in fact, my name's on there. And if they want to play like it's going to rain, or just superstition, they don't play by. They play by hunches.
And how when they choose what words are
The 4
coming?
bowls, they take those 80 words and they stir them up and they put them in 4 bowls, and then they pick, and then they have a dice, and they roll the dice, and whatever bowl that comes out of, they take that bowl, and those are the ones that the winners.
And how much money were we talking about, Song? If I went down to Chinatown and played the lottery and won all my words came, how much money would I win?
Oh, at first it was only about $100, about the highest they can win. But as time went on, well, it was more. In fact, there was 2 or 3 lotteries.
And did people come from outside Chinatown to play?
They're mostly Chinese people that play it, but once in a while the Caucasian will go in and play a 10-cent ticket, but they have to win all 9 numbers to get a big amount of money. It would be $90 anyway. They wouldn't get very much, and they have regulars that they go and play.
Did Caucasians come to Chinatown a lot to go to the stores?
Oh, they come and they buy different things. My dad sold both American and Chinese goods, and the neighborhood, they come down and we have a man that brought fresh milk, and so they.
Do you remember who he was?
And they bring their cans and buy their milk.
Do you remember who the man was that brought milk?
Henry. Henry always brought the milk every day, and then then they have like holiday time, they sell fireworks. And
Like New Year's?
Well, 4th of July, too. In fact, there's so many, let's see, 4th of July, New Year's, and what else? See, Chinese have so many holidays. In fact, they have 2 holidays a month, the 1st and the 15th. And then they have moon festivals. They have just so many different holidays.
And were these all celebrated in Chinatown?
Yeah, all tradition.
Did the Caucasian people, you told me once about the Caucasian people coming for Chinese New Year's, that they would come down.
They have, see, my mother did a lot of cooking, and they have regular banquets. And so they mostly, the Chinese people have their own dinners and everything, but Caucasians, you know, they come in, and so everybody's welcome as far as that goes.
Did they have special friends in the Caucasian community, the Chinese, people they worked for, or?
Yeah, well, there was different families. My dad used to hired all these Chinese. Well, they'd have them come over. Then, of course, he made his own whiskey and all the. In fact, Frank P. Doyle, Luther Burbank, and Henry Ford, they used to come over and drink some of my dad's booze.
Did they called your father the mayor of Chinatown, didn't they?
Yeah, that's what they call my dad. So then Moon used to help my grandpa with a lot of things.
Tell us about your grandpa and Moon. Now, your grandfather's name was?
Poi Jam.
Poi Jam, and he was your mother's father. Is that
Yeah,
right?
mother's side.
And his brother was
Moon.
Young Moon.
Young Moon.
And for some reason now, the Elks called him Moon.
Moon. He liked to be called Moon. In fact, he came here and worked Chevet Winery
In Glen Ellen.
And he was, in fact, he was always said, "Oh, I'm the best brandy maker they have in Glen Ellen."
And did he
then Grandpa worked for O'Brien, the Coffee King, and he didn't have enough to do, so that's how he started Jam Key.
Where was the first Jam Key restaurant?
On 2nd Street. In fact, there was just 2 tables.
And it was mostly for Chinese then?
Huh?
It was mostly for the Chinese?
Yeah.
Stop for just a second, the microphone. Unhooked a bit.
Excuse me, Song is my assistant.
Yeah, a little unhooked.
Did you get caught in the rain? Jenny, this is Song. Song, this is Jenny. Jenny works for me.
I'm glad to see you. Very glad to meet you.
I will.
Can I have my thumb? Thanks.
Thank you. The barbecue, you know?
Yeah, that's great.
Good. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to ask you about when your father died again, so we can get that.
And be careful not to make any gestures too wide, because I have your pretty
All right,
close.
I'll show you what I thought you were waving at. It's hard for me not to talk with my hands.
Give me just a second.
Sure.
Okay, we get speed. Anytime.
Okay. Now, how long did your father live, Song?
Dad got the flu.
Oh, 1918?
1918. And that's when I lost him.
And your mother?
I guess I lost Mother in 39, I think. Because she walked across the Golden Gate Bridge, so it must have been
After 37.
maybe a couple of 2-3 years after that. So
When did all the Chinese leave Chinatown?
All the Chinese, they just disappeared because there was no work for them, and then also some of them got so old that they just in fact they just all they had we had younger people come here, but there was no work for them. So.
What about the Jungs, like Henry Jung? When did that family come?
Well, I don't remember the year, but Henry Jung's mother and my mother were friends, and that's chums in San Francisco, and that's how it all came about. And Henry came to Santa Rosa to help out at the butcher shop, and then
Which market do you remember?
Diamond Market, and then he went to high school, in fact, with my brother Harry.
And they were close to your family.
Well, Henry and Alice's children are my godchildren, Jadine and then of course we lost Teeny and Greg. In fact, Greg just got married.
Now, how many other Chinese families were there that lived here through the years? That you know, from after the Depression, during the war.
There wasn't too many families here. In fact, I was the only Chinese going to school, and I can always still remember it too, because my dad had to take me to school and come and get me because they'd beat me up, and they used to. I had long hair, and they tie my hair to anything they can tie it to, and put my hair in ink wells. And
were you afraid to go to school?
I was scared. In fact, recess, I hardly ever went outside because unless a teacher was with me, and they always called me a teacher's pet, but they always beat me up. So I never could get near any play equipment or anything.
Any of those people that used to beat you up, did they ever come into your restaurant when they got older?
Well, we laugh about it now. And in fact, some of them have come back here and retired, and they used to laugh about how they treated me.
Do you laugh about it? Do you laugh about it?
Huh? Oh, yes, I laugh about it. I don't.
Now,
in fact, Charles and I have been invited to different things, and they see my face and they said, I don't think you have an invitation or something like that. So I'm used to that too.
Now you and Charles went to high school together, didn't you? Was he your boyfriend in high school? Was he your boyfriend when you were in high school?
No, not really.
And when did you get married?
Oh gosh, it's in the 20s. And it's been he was so good to my family and all. I just, in fact, they accepted him very nicely and all, and so I just he was so good to my grandpa and everything. Things just work out beautifully.
You were married a long time.
Well, if he was living, it'd be 65 years.
And now, when did you close the restaurant on 3rd Street and move over to 5th?
Moved to 5th Street in 66.
And the restaurant burned in... When was the fire?
2 years ago? 3 years ago.
So it would have been 91, 92.
3 years ago, I guess, because I lost Charles in '88, so it
You
was
closed in '88.
about 3 years ago. The fire was.
You didn't open the restaurant after Charles.
Well, they torched the back of it and it smoked up everything. So I just.
No, I mean after Charles died, you didn't open. Did
No,
you?
I was going to, but then I just debated. I thought, well, it's. I was. I couldn't make up my mind to do it or not, so the fire took care of the situation.
Tell me a little bit, or tell us a little bit, Song, about you. Now, you have been very active, specifically in two organizations, in Seroptimists and in the American Legion. Is that right? American Legion Auxiliary.
Oh, I'm a charter member of the Seroptimists.
And what about the American
I got
Legion?
100% attendance.
Didn't they name a scholarship for you?
Yeah, let's see. They did, but I can't think of the name of it. A state scholarship.
And what about the American Legion? They have honored you all over the place, haven't they?
Yes, they have.
You don't want to talk to me about your honors, do you?
Well,
I don't mean to embarrass you.
hmm?
I don't mean to embarrass you.
No.
Let's go back
I
to...
was Businesswoman of the Year for BPW first, and then I was unit member of the American Legion Auxiliary of California. And then, see,
Let's go back to Chinatown. Let's go back to the old Chinatown. The picture that I have of Chinatown that was in the book, the picture of those
that's where I was born.
How many buildings were there, do you think? How many
Well,
stores and buildings?
There was I say about 10 on each side of the street, and then there was a house at toward Main Street. Japanese people lived there. They had the laundry on First Street,
What was their name?
Market Laundry,
What was
Iwoka.
Iwoka.
They live in the house toward Main Street, and then Dodge people came along and they tore some of it down, and they were going toward Main Street, and then there was a service station on the corner of Main and Second, and then across the street they built a hotel there. And then Stevenson's came along and
Stevenson.
took part of that property. And then Mom's Metal came along and took part of it.
Now, who owned the property in Chinatown? Did your father own the land?
No, they wouldn't let Chinese own any property then.
And so he paid rent. Everybody
Yeah,
paid rent.
Probably $10 a month, I think, or $5.
Do you remember who owned it?
In fact, Charles's two uncles owned part of it, the Bazordis. And then on the other side, the Hammonds had their home on 3rd Street. Their property owned was from 3rd to 2nd. And they had part of the property. And then Raz came along and built Raz is welding.
Welding.
And then Pro came along and he was fixing cars.
Who?
So Pro, P-R-O, P-R-O-L-L, I think it is, Pro. In fact, he helped fix all the kids' bicycles that came along. I seen kids go in there and he fixed bicycles for them and everything. And then they tore the my brother's laundry down and built a house there on the corner, a D and 2nd Street. So that took the buildings down.
What was the name of your brother's laundry?
Huh?
The name of your brother's laundry.
He didn't have a name for the laundry, but his name was Bach Wong. In fact, he's in that family picture that they have here. He had laundry, but there was no dryers in those days. You know, they hung everything outside up on the. They strung wires all over and had. I don't know how they did dry their clothes in the wintertime, but in fact, he was saying he's at the largest package laundry was, I think, $1 for a family laundry.
And Caucasians brought their laundry.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then there was a laundry. Some relatives had seen my brother was doing so well. Over there where Topaz room was, there was a laundry there. And
right on the plaza.
So there was the 2 Chinese laundries.
When do you know when your father first came to Santa Rosa?
No, I wouldn't. I don't know what the date was. I was trying to look up and see if I can find some documents.
Before 1900, though.
Yeah. In fact, they wouldn't let me bury him in a cemetery in Oddfellows or any place else. So had to bury him in where all the
Poor people.
other people were, because they wouldn't let me bury him any place else.
That's the.
I'm hoping that they didn't paved it over. I never did go see it.
I don't think they did. I don't think they did. That's the part. That's the cemetery where they were going to build the parking lot up by Community Hospital.
Well, with your help, it probably wasn't paved, but I often wonder if they paved it over.
I don't think so. I hope not. And your mother, is she buried in?
No, I took her to San Francisco because they didn't want. They wouldn't. I couldn't bury her here. They wouldn't allow it.
Even in the 1930s.
Yeah.
What about Grandpa?
My Grandpa's here at Oddfellows. Grandpa's here, and in fact, he's there with my Bobby Wong's father and mother. See, he's a. Let's see now. How is he related to me now? He's my grandpa's. I see. No, he's my dad's half brother.
This is Dr.
Bobby's father.
Dr. Wong.
No, Bobby. You know Bobby,
I don't think so.
don't you? Sure, you must.
Well, maybe I do.
Bobby, Sam, and Minnie Wong. Bobby.
There's another Wong who's a doctor. That's why.
Yeah, you're thinking about Ken Wong, Dr. Ken Wong.
That's right. That's Ken.
This is Bobby.
And Ken is not related.
No, he's a Wong, but that's all the Wongs are supposed to be related.
Yeah.
Okay, Gaye, I need to change to it.
Okay. Now.
Well, they had Tong Wars.
Good. We'll talk about that.
Let's see what else.
Ready? Okay. Tell me again, because it was noisy at the first. Tell me again your full name and when you were born.
Should I say Song Wong
Bourbeau.
Bourbeau?
And you were born?
Huh?
You were born
October 7th, 1909,
in Santa Rosa?
in Santa Rosa, on 2nd Street,
And your mother was?
Lun Wing
And she was born in
San Francisco.
And your father?
Tom Wing Wong.
And he was born in Canton, right?
He's from Canton, China.
Now let's talk about Tong Wars. Tell me about Tong Wars.
Hmm? Well, we live next door to a Chinese temple, and they different Chinese, they have several. Let's see, how shall I say? Like gangs, and so they get into problems like gambling and things like that in the Bay Area and everything, and they pay these men, say, $100 to go kill them, So they come up here and hide because they know that my dad had a boarding house and everything, and they come up here and every once in a while they'll catch one. And I have being that I was the only girl in the family, well, we have this temple that my dad took care of, and we have what we call kitchen god and outdoor gods and all that. And so it's my chore that every morning before I went to school to put, incense on each one of these gods before I go to school, and then at night when I come home. So every once in a while I see a body laying out there in the alley. And so they get into an argument over maybe opium debt or gambling debt. In fact, in the old days, the opium was, I see all these, my name is Song, it's a boy's name, and they all think I'm a boy, so they'd be all over the floor laying there smoking opium and everything. They never thought nothing about it because they think I'm a boy. See, and I have to go in there and put these incense on that god. So
they smoked opium?
I used to get a big kick out of it. Cause,
in the temple?
Huh?
They smoked in the temple?
No, they don't. See, they had one room that they don't sit and smoke like cigarettes. They lay on the floor and smoke this opium. And then I don't think they ever found out that I was a girl. Because I wore Chinese clothes when I went to school. My mother made all my clothes for me. And so that's... and then this temple next door, it's tradition for them to go in and they don't use it as a church or anything. They use it for traditional. They go in and they call it, they get down on their knees and pray. But they don't have no minister or anything. But that's the way they, and so we have, especially first of the month or the 15th of the month, we have to put chickens and oranges and food there for them to pray.
Like on the altar.
Uh-huh.
And that cloth, that beautiful altar cloth that you have, your mother made that, did she?
No, it came from China, but I'm glad to have saved it, So holiday time, we hung it outside, and then in the other times it's inside.
And did they decorate at like Chinese New Year's? Was there a lot of red and gold and paper?
Red is very traditional. And
where did the opium
my
come
dad had to quit bringing these Chinese here. Tom Gary was supposed to be a friend. He's the one that put the Exclusion Act on the Chinese.
When he was in Congress, that's right.
In fact, he used to drink a lot of my dad's whiskey and then he goes and put this through, and that's why, we couldn't get any more Chinese people here.
Where did the opium come from? Where did the opium come from?
It came from China in little cans.
Cans?
They ship them over just like you would ship a dozen eggs. Or anything.
Did the police ever come down and
It looks like tar. 'Cause,
black?
It looked in the little cans about, I'm guessing maybe a pound. It looked like a pound of tar.
Did the police ever come down and give you any?
In those days, opium was free, just like a person would smoke a cigarette or everything. Of course, that was in my youth when I was a little kid. I used to see them, of course, in the later times, so it was against the law to have it.
So there were Chinatowns in the other towns around here too, in Sebastopol and Petaluma. Did you ever visit any?
Sebastopol, my cousin lived in Sebastopol.
What was his name?
In Old Chinatown.
What was his name?
Ernest Wong, Bessie Wong.
Where was the old Chinatown in Sebastopol?
Where Polini is now, that alley. And then New Chinatown is where the vinegar works is now.
And what about Healdsburg? Did they have a Chinatown?
No, there was one restaurant there. My uncle had it right on the corner of, as you go into the square.
What was his name?
Oh gosh, they all called him Fat because he was so heavy.
What about Petaluma? Was there a Chinatown there?
No, they didn't have a Chinatown. There was a few Chinese there. They had a laundry.
Was the
In later years, they had a grocery store, Petaluma Grocery.
Did people come from the other Chinatowns to the temple in Santa Rosa?
Well, they had no transportation. Horse and buggy, In fact, that's how my dad got around in horse and buggy, to see all the farms and haul the Chinese. And
your dad was like a labor contractor, wasn't he?
yeah.
The people would, if they needed people to pick apples or hops, they would come to him,
Yeah.
and he would supply them with a crew.
In fact, they'd gamble among themselves and lose all their money, and then they don't have enough money to buy food. They'd come to my dad. I can still remember them talking about it. Then my dad, instead of giving them money, he says, I'll give you the meal instead. It seems like my mother was forever cooking.
Well, you learned to cook very young, too, didn't you? You learned to cook when you were very young.
I stood on a box and washed rice. They're, I don't know. There's, I was thinking, my Uncle Charlie, he had a store 2 doors from there.
Charlie Wong?
Charlie Kwong Sing, it was. See, he was my dad's half-brother. And they were competing with each other in the grocery business. And firecrackers.
They sold a lot of firecrackers.
Yes. I used to worry about fire. The kids come, American kids, Caucasian kids will come over and buy the firecrackers, and they light them by the package and throw them up. And those shacks, I think, the whole thing's going to go. I used to be scared to death.
I can see
But
why.
it never happened. I don't know.
There never was any fire, big fire in that area.
No.
What about the Japanese people, the Iokas and
Sanyo.
Sanyo?
Sanyo had a nice store there and everything. That was after the years that my uncle and my dad, didn't have the store anymore, and they started up, and it was very, very nice.
And you got along fine, didn't you?
Oh, yes.
Did they go away?
And in fact, they had a little church around the corner. I think there was I can't think of it was a family, and they had a little church, and they had all the Japanese people together. They were over there on First Street. There was, maybe 5 or 6 families of Japanese. Of course, by then, they were, younger than myself, so they were accepted at school. So
things got better for them. Do you remember them going away to camp during World War II? Or was it pretty much gone then?
No, they were gone already. They're gone. Dr. Haira in Sebastopol, the dentist, I think he went in the service, and the Japanese in Sebastopol. There was none here that was in that.
Not in that Chinatown area. Well, Song, is there anything
And then
else?
there was a lot of Chinese moved here and bought chicken ranches so they wouldn't have to go into service. In later years, World War II.
When you look back on those Chinatown years, are they pleasant memories?
Yes, but I was so young then. I don't see. There was so much. See, I was the only Chinese around here, and they resented me. They just. In fact, I feel like they just hated me. I mean, I was afraid.
So you're saying no, not yes.
I was afraid to even go down the street by myself. In fact, my mother said, "Go down and store and get something," But I was afraid to go because I figured they'd beat me up, which sometimes they did. But as years went by, in fact, I don't know what. I was afraid I'd get hurt, that's all.
Did that stop after you married Charles? I mean,
Huh?
When you married Charles, did that all stop? Were you accepted then?
No. Because Bourbeau didn't mean nothing to the people, They didn't think I was... When they see me, well, they just... in fact, to this day, some people are not very happy.
That's amazing, considering all you've done.
So I overlook it. I laugh about it.
Well, you're a good person, and you've been
'Cause-
very important to Santa Rosa.
In fact, when I went back to National Convention in BPW, I don't know if I ever told you or not, but I went to get my reservation, and they said, I told them my name, Song Bourbeau, and they looked at me, and they just shut the door on me, in fact.
Where was this?
At the hotel.
In what town?
Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, boy.
So I got in touch with the national president's secretary, and I said, I have my reservation, and they accepted and took my money and everything. So there was another delegate with me, and she says, she was surprised, and then they said to me afterwards, that it was somebody that didn't understand me or something. They made all kinds of excuses, but I knew that when they saw my face that they just didn't. Then I ended up by having to help a Chinese girl was receiving a scholarship from the national BPW. They were sponsoring scholarships, and this gal from China received it, and she didn't talk a bit of English, and they needed me to talk to her to accept her scholarship, and they couldn't do enough for me. But I says, but it wasn't the delegates or anything. It was this man that was at the desk taking the people in from the reservations, and they were surprised that they did that to me. And I said, well, I'm used to that. I said, that didn't bother me.
Now, there's a lot of Chinese here now,
Yeah.
by comparison, Chinese Americans, and there's a Chinese American club down in Roanoke Park.
Yeah, I know. They asked me to join, in fact.
And did you?
No. Well, I think I'll probably will someday. I don't know. Maybe when I meet the gals.
At the show.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that there's so many here that they're organized and they can do so many things.
Do anything.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Song.
Well, I appreciate the honor and everything, Gaye. Thank you very much.
It's
It's an honor.
It's an honor for us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.